بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا يستوي أصحاب النار وأصحاب الجنة. أصحاب الجنة هم الفائزون. لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله. وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس لعلهم يتفكرون. هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم. هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر. سبحان الله عما يشركون. هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. صدق الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. نحمده ونصلي على رسول الكريم أما بعد. So, is it? Okay. All right. So this, obviously, your topic is maybe a little different. This is the presentation that we did at ISNA and ICNA conference last year, and there were three presenters at that time: Dr. Altaf Hussain, myself, and Dr. Kashif Yahya. And it was about the vital role of fathers in homeschooling. But we have, for your workshop, I have done some changes, so inshallah we'll go over this. So the first question is, for homeschoolers or those who are thinking about doing homeschooling, why not public schooling? And there are many reasons, and it has been discussed and written a lot of things about this. There are books, but just these four things that we think that are more important for us as Muslims. I mean, there are many reasons why people would like to do, like not to send their kids to public school. So it has an impact on religion. And in general, because the focus is on secular education, and the religious education or religion per se is just at the side. I mean, it's not discussed. It's not something that's part of the educational life. The religion becomes irrelevant intellectually and in somebody's daily life, in terms of practice or in terms of issues that we deal with every day. There are new issues come, and a religious person, whether they belong to our religion, Islam, or they belong to any other religion, they would look towards their religious teachings first. What do I have in terms of guidance? And the secular education, which is, as you see, 8 hours a day, they're there in the school. I just totally, disregard this aspect of a human. The second reason is the ethics and morals are taught as culturally driven. So if I belong to one culture, so for example, let's say, Salat. Salat is a cultural thing because I came from Pakistan or India or Bangladesh or any other country or Africa. It was part of my culture. So this is, you can keep your culture, but you can still, be part of this, American culture. So if you do something which is religious, but it will be considered as, culturally driven. And in that situation, you can have your culture, we can develop a different type of culture in this country, and that will be just as fine and as equal and as, as good as your culture that you brought from some other place. And the third thing is the normalization of the values that are contrary to religion. So there are things that we consider wrong, the things that are not halal. These are the things are become normalized in this, schooling culture. And because there is no, moral compass in terms of, religious guidance, it becomes something that is not fixed. It is keep changing. Today something is good, tomorrow could be bad, and the thing that is bad today will become good tomorrow. So this type of attitude, it just and we have fixed values in terms of morality, in terms of gender and sex and other areas. That these things become totally not fixed and relative. So that's the effects, and you can see that a child that is going through this educational system for a good 12 years, they have a totally different mindset. And then there is cultural disconnection from faith. So the culture is always, or you can say the culture develops from religion. It's not the vice versa. The culture does not give the religion gives the culture. And you can read anthropological studies there. First there is some sort of religious building, and then the culture becomes developed around that religion or around that whether it's pyramids or some other sort of religious structure. Even actually even before the organized religions, or as they have discovered some in Turkey, that even when people didn't start living as an agricultural societies, there was still a temple. When they were hunters and gatherers. So that proves that the religion was not produced by a society. The society was produced by the religion. So these are the impacts, and the results of this type of secular education is the very important thing, and the very first thing is ilhad, meaning that you stay away, you leave or doubt religion. And that's the major thing that we are dealing with in this country, and other countries also, by the way. I mean, no other country is safe from this. The second is the LGBTQ agenda that they're pushing through the schools, the major sins that they promote, and then the marrying of non-Muslims and children raised as non-Muslims. So let's look at that in just a little detail. So this is from the Pew Research. I bet you can't read it, but I can give you the summary of it. That from each religion, that they're saying that at least 23% of people are leaving the religion. Okay, whether it's Christianity, Judaism, or Islam. The only difference is that Islam is gaining converts also. So that's why we are balanced. Otherwise, our kids, 1 in 4, are leaving Islam or doubting. And this is the research that was from 2017, I was checking, they have another report in 2025 also, similar results. In terms of LGBTQ agenda, as you know that they're pushing this at a very early age in the schools, and this is from the New York elementary school where they started in kindergarten. So the highlighted point here, or the underlying point, is that 52% of U.S. Muslims said homosexuality should be accepted by society, and this is an increase of 25% since 2007. So in less than 10 years, you have doubled those who believe that this is okay, and this is an important, obviously for them it's a milestone. For us is a huge problem. Okay. Major sins, if you, I don't think you can read it, but I'll read it. Among the college students, the boys and girls. The pink on the left side is girls. Premarital sex is 48% in girls and 57% in boys. Illicit drugs 19% and 28%. Marijuana is 17% and 28%. Gambling 19% and 36%. Tobacco 26% and 44%. And alcohol is 48% in girls and 45% in boys. And this research was done by this association called FYI, the Family and Youth Institute. And again, this is a major problem for us, those who feel that we have to do something about this issue. Getting married, there's about 10% of our Muslims, they get married to non-Muslims, 10%. And a lot of these marriages, they don't last, but those, which last and then there are children out of those marriages, the issue is whether they're going to stay Muslim or they can actually get even Muslim name. And this is, an issue in all of these, even with, Muslims marrying to, let's say, Christians, that's an issue. But non-Muslims like Hindus, I mean, there are examples, Muslim men, marrying to Hindu women and vice versa. Both are true. So all of this is obviously is going on. This is, the ground reality at this point. What's our responsibility according to Quran is Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. This is our responsibility as the family members, whether you're the father or the mother. You have to save your family. Qu anfusakum, yourself, and ahlikum, your family, from the fire. And Wallahu yad'u ila daris salam wa yahdi man yasha'u ila siratin mustaqim. Allah is calling you towards daris salam, which is Jannah. There's another ayah from Surah At-Tur. Then this is something that would happen on the Day of Judgment. وَأَقْبَلَ بَعْضُهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ يَتَسَاءَلُونَ. The people of Jannah, they will see each other and they will start asking about this thing. And they will say, قَالُوا إِنَّا كُنَّا قَبْلُ فِي أَهْلِنَا مُشْفِقِينَ. We used to fear about our family in the past, meaning when we were in the dunya. فَمَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا وَوَقَانَا عَذَابَ السَّمُومِ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, He has man Allah, He gave us, He bestowed His mercy upon us, and He saved us from adhab as-samum, the fire. And what was this? Inna kunna min qablu nad'uhu innahu huwal barrur rahim. We used to call Him, and He is al-bar and al-rahim. So this is one character of the Muslims, those who will inshallah get to Jannah, that they fear about their family. All right, so the reasons and resources. So we did, this is my personal experience. We did homeschool, and our homeschooling started in 1998, 99, in that time period. And obviously this is, good 25 years ago. And there might be different reasons then. For you, there might be a different reason, but there could be, it's not just the thing that this was a thing of past. There were the reasons why people were doing at that time. A lot of Christians were doing it for the same reason, religious reason. The Jews always did it. I mean, they said that in New York, 90+% of the Jewish kids, they go to their yeshiva schools. They have their schools. So they don't send their kids to public school because they know what the public schools can do. And they keep their religion just because of that. The other reason is, whether the public school education is actually of a quality education or not. And there were the people who did the homeschooling just because of that reason, not religious reason. So there were many books at that time when we were, looking for, what and how and why. These were the material that we came across. And there must be much more material in these 25 years. Some of these books that we used. So now so the thing is, we did homeschooling, okay? And after all of this experience, I think our experience is that the homeschooling is hard, okay? It's a huge undertaking. And we should have something of a hybrid type of program that we can actually promote in Muslim communities, and we can help them so that most of the Muslims, they take their kids out of public school and able to do homeschooling or something, similar to homeschooling. So this is, what I presented back then and a year ago at, ICCL. So there are free online schooling. So you're not sending your kids to public school, but they can stay at home and you don't have to teach them directly. They can learn from online schools like Khan Academy, K-12 powered schools and online public schools. And I believe the Al-Huda is also doing their global campus. I haven't looked into much detail here, but probably similar program. Obviously it's not free, okay? So, but that's online schooling. Online schooling with tuition fee like this Khan World School or Arizona State University Prep Academy or Al-Huda Global. This you can join that, and that will be one does not take the responsibility of teaching every subject to their child, and the school does it. Then we have online Islamic schools, and these are, for example, American Islamic School, the Muslim Academy, Legacy International Online School, Al-Huda Global School, okay, and Al-Bayan Academy. So the previous two were just mostly secular. Now in that situation, we suggested that each masjid should have a program that they would supplement religious education to this secular education, to all the homeschoolers. And obviously the masjid has resources, and this is, I believe, the masjid's job to actually keep the families Muslim and the kids Muslim. And that's why we have Sunday school or the evening schools. So they can provide an additional service to homeschoolers also. So how to make it a movement in terms of rather than just individual parents that they are deciding that we'll do the homeschooling. So we need, activism and advocacy at community center levels. So just like at this center, we're trying at our center, Islamic Community Center of Laurel, and all of the masajid, they should, play an active part in developing this. And then they should allow the masjid space to be used for this, because obviously there are additional expenses that the masjid has to pay or accrue because of this. And then the masjid would provide the religious education, or the educational counselor, if they can hire a counselor who can help these homeschooling families how to do their secular curriculum part. That would be something that the masjid, should do. So this was, my presentation back then. We can stop and ask questions, or we can go into the other part. Sisters, do you have any question or on this? As you can see in the picture, Malcolm X is there and Muhammad Ali is there with their kids. All right, so the next part is actually the presentation of Brother Kashif Yahya. Sure. All right, let's go back to.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi.
Question is, if the kids go to schools, regular schools, government schools, so is there any program from the masjid side to help them if they go astray to secularism side?
Right.
Is there any program that help them find out or recognize that they are not going in the right path, or they should be helped because they are human beings? They will be tempted. The Satan is there, and so many society activities are there. So any program that help them be on the right path and discuss with them daily or monthly or weekly anytime, so that they should not do the wrong things, evil things, and they should come to the right path. Jazakumullah.
Oh, yeah. So, we say that an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. Meaning, this is you're asking a remedy to already, occurring a disease. You want me to treat the disease, right? But the thing is, we want to prevent it. And obviously the Sunday school program in all of the masajid is one step in that direction. Others, programs like in our masjid, we have an evening school also. So, which is called maktab, or we have a different name for that. So the kids who go to public school, they can come for at least a couple of hours every day, 4 or 5 days a week, and they can learn about Islam. So this is prevention. And if you just want to save them from that effect of public schooling, then as I alluded to, that all of these things are available. One can do just free online schooling, or pay some. They're not that expensive. Even when I checked the Al Bayan Academy, it wasn't that expensive. As expensive as you send the children to a private school. Private schools are really expensive. The Christian private schools, some of them are $38,000 a year per child. So because it costs a lot to have a building, have the teachers come, all those programs. It's very expensive. So what other alternatives do we have? So all of these alternatives that I have shown, that are the alternatives. Now in terms of the treatment, we should have definitely regular programs about these topics, counseling if you know the counseling is available, and that would be the treatment in that situation.
So I think you might have hit on this just a little bit, but we talked a little bit about public school versus homeschooling. But can you touch on Islamic schooling versus homeschooling and why to gravitate towards homeschooling versus Islamic schooling? Yeah, can you kind of go into that a little bit?
Right. So, I mean, the biggest really issue with Islamic schools are they're expensive. I mean, it's you can ask if you have 3 kids, those are going to go to, let's say, Islamic school nearby. It's about what, $14,000 a year. So that's expensive. Now, just because it's expensive, and private school is going to be expensive. As I said, the Christian schools or some other schools, they're very expensive, because I mean this is an expensive enterprise. I mean, we shouldn't expect a good result from a completely cheap type of result, cheap type of remedy of this issue. The way to cut the cost and to get more and more people into this is these programs. I mean, I don't think that there is another way to do it. As you can see, the private schools are not that many. I mean, we have, in this area, there are a lot of Muslim kids, and we have only 1 or 2 schools. So, I mean, it's not a solution. I mean, even if it is affordable, they have, I believe, maximum enrollment is about 600. And there are 6,000 plus kids out there. So you're not serving the whole community. The only way to really do, serve the community is to have something hybrid. I know, as a parent that, it's not that easy to take this, responsibility of teaching your kids by yourself. It takes a lot of time and effort. And that's why we have to have something to supplement. So these are the 2 ways that I have, I've come up with. And there might be more. I mean, if someone wants to add it, that would be good, and I'll add it, next time when I present it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do the sisters have any questions, sister side? Or inshallah, we can continue.
All right.
I don't know if there are any questions, but can I wanted thing
Sure.
to the brother who asked the first question. I think that was actually already in your question, that you identified it. Sometimes we just become a people who are constantly taking our kids from event to event or to program. Ability to have a conversation with you. Thank you. Something that only you can do and you can always do, right? Whether it's 5 minutes a day, just being, involved and curious about your kid's life and what's going on, and providing opportunities to talk about their day. It's so powerful and impactful and free. It's 100% free. So I think that's the way to approach it, because wherever your child is, they're experiencing something. And their ability to process that through your lens is part of the honor of being a parent.
All right. So let's continue. How can fathers take a more active role in homeschooling? So, I mean, generally when the family makes this decision, a lot of times the burden of teaching goes on the shoulder of the mother, and that's where this issue comes in, whether the fathers can actually help. So, yeah, whose responsibility is it? All right. I mean, they have seen that children with dads who are involved in their upbringing tend to do better socially, emotionally, academically than kids with uninvolved fathers. So this is, even those who are going to public school or otherwise, this is what they have seen. And research also shows kids with involved dads tend to be more confident. So these are just the benefits that if the fathers are involved in the education of their children. I mean, that's a good enough reason for the fathers to get involved. All right. So you have to have obviously for this you have to plan. You have to have a strategy, extracurricular activities that the fathers can do with the kids, and the fathers are aware of trends and what is needed to best prepare children for the future, because most of the fathers are working. They're outside, they know what's going on, and they can help, the kids in that regard. And then this presentation, I'm just giving you highlights because obviously this is, my other colleague's presentation. How can you support your wife? Okay. Alignment, that meaning that your goals should be aligned. It's not like, she wants to do something, and you want to do something else, and then you just keep clashing. It has to be aligned. Even in terms of how to teach, what to teach, and what type of curriculum to let's say use. All of these things require some sort of alignment. And then appreciation, which is always good in any marriage, regardless of. Which we are not really, we're not good at. Autonomy. So if the mother is doing most of the education, then there should be an autonomy for her. She should be able to make decisions and plan and those type of things. So rather than pushing your agenda as father, let her do it. Assistance, it looks like meaning that you got to do some chores at home because she's busy taking care of your kids and teaching. And again, appreciation. All right. So this is the actual presentation that we did. But I think the most important part still is how to make this as a movement and help most of the parents who actually can do some sort of homeschooling to do homeschooling, to educate them, to give them resources, help them in the sense that I've suggested that if the masjid can hire somebody who can do counseling, one-on-one counseling, how to do it, what to buy, if for example, let's say one subject, math is one math curriculum is not working. What other options do we have? There are so many different things that come in, with the children, psychology and whatnot. So you need somebody to help these parents. So if we have that type of, support from the masjid, then you'll see more, families will be doing it. So that is something that the masjid should do. And the second thing is, a lot of people who have been through this schooling system and they want to do homeschooling, they can do the secular part of that curriculum, the religious part, the reading of the Quran, or some memorization, or the salat, or the fiqh of Islamic issues, or akhlaq, all of these things that if the masjid can provide this in some form, that will be helpful for the parents, and the child's education will be complete. So that part is, I guess, the masajid should do. in order to help. And then finally, if something does happen, then we should have counseling for that, or educational material or educational classes for that. So with that, I guess I can stop.
Anyone else has any questions before we can move on, inshallah? Others? Any more questions? So inshallah, I'm sorry, I should have introduced Dr. Abdul Munim before this talk, inshallah, but I'll do it right now. Dr. Abdul Munim has been a very renowned family physician and doctor of internal medicine in the community, especially in Laurel. Some of you may be his patients here. Also, Dr. Abdul Munim has homeschooled his kids for more than 30 years now. Alhamdulillah, 2 of them are also married, and now they are, one of them is homeschooling their kids, and she also happens to be my wife, alhamdulillah. Dr. Abdul Munim is also my father-in-law, alhamdulillah. Dr. Abdul Munim has given presentations on the same topic at ICCL, which is the Laurel Masjid, and also has given a similar presentation at the ICNA conference, I believe, last year.
Last year in 2000 and I believe 15.
And 2015, alhamdulillah. So again, if anybody has any questions, we can probably get Dr. Abdul Munim's email later. You know, any advice he can share as a father or in his journey in homeschooling, inshallah. We will get going with the program, inshallah, and Sister Moira can, inshallah, introduce her topic. If Sister Aisha can, inshallah, introduce Sister Moira before she starts. Jazakallahu khair.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. This is Sister Moira McGuire. She's been homeschooling for many years, before maybe some of us were even alive, right? She is a unschooler, but mashallah, she has unschooled many of her children, well, all of her children, right? Almost all of her children, successfully. So I'll let her take the call.
Jazakallah khairan. And yes, successfully, that's such an interesting word. Before I start, by the way, the sight of the sister in the back with her kids against the wall, oh my God, I miss those days so much, just having my kids all around me. Anyway, so I have 6 children, and my 2 oldest are actually from my first marriage. And that was where I got my first introduction to public school, because I was raised Catholic and I was part of that 10% Dr. Abdul Munim mentioned about Muslims marrying non-Muslims. So, and my husband and I were actually married 13 years before I ever took my Shahada, but alhamdulillah, Allahu Alam, we all have our own path and journey. So my oldest Matthew, when he first went to school, public school, I was seeing things that I hadn't seen through the Catholic school system, and immediately realized something was not right here. I mean, I've given you this amazing, perfectly formed, you know, child with a mind that works, and it just wasn't working. And then I had my daughter Tara, and so when they were in middle school, we actually decided we were going to homeschool them for a year. I was kind of interested in homeschooling, and you know, I grew up in Tacoma Park, which is like the Berkeley of the East, and so a lot of people homeschool. It's a very granola thing to do, so I thought, yeah, let's give it a try. It didn't work out. I mean, alhamdulillah, it worked out for me, but the kids were, I think they were already very indoctrinated into this idea that learning only takes place in a building called a school, in a room called a classroom, sitting at a thing called a desk, with someone in the front of the room called teacher, right? Like, it was already kind of implanted. So alhamdulillah, then my my husband and I had Zakaria, and so we sent him to Al-Huda. And in first grade, after first grade actually, he asked if he could homeschool. And we were like, what? Where did that come from? I think, I don't know, maybe one of his classmates or somebody there at Al-Huda. And so we talked about it and we decided, let's give it a try. So we started with Zach. So we had Zach, Aisha, Adam, and Maryam wasn't born yet. And yeah, we tried it, and then little by little, we just took the kids out, and Maryam never went. She's only been homeschooled. And so when we first started, there was definitely, I mean, you do what you know, right? So we knew, my husband is originally from Ethiopia, so he knew the Ethiopian school system, and I knew the Catholic school system here and a little bit of the public school system, and my parents are educators, so I'm like, okay, this is the way it's supposed to go. But little by little, I realized, you know, actually it's the whole structure, like the entire framework, everything about schools. And I think that's the reason why it didn't work in the public school system for me. It didn't work in the Catholic school system, the Islamic school system, that it wasn't, for me, it was just that entire framework. I didn't believe it. And so I think over time I realized, because I'd never heard about unschooling, I didn't know what that was. But I realized that's exactly what I was, which, by the way, completely drove my husband crazy, because he's like, well, what are the kids going to do every day? And I was like, I don't know, let's just see the way the wind is blowing, and let's see what, they feel like doing. And he was like, what? But alhamdulillah, I think, so first of all, I'm a nurse by profession. I retired a few years ago, but prior to that, I was the chief of integrative health and wellness. So most of my professional work has been around wellness. And I love the wellness model. And it's very different than an illness model. And an illness model, you are immediately asking, what's wrong? What's going on? What's the problem, right? Very few people come to their primary care physician because everything's wonderful, right? But a wellness model is completely different. A wellness model is, hey, tell us what's right with you. Tell us what you do really well, and we're going to use that and build upon it. And I think I realized that so much of the education system, and sometimes us as parents, that we're operating from an illness perspective, right? That there's something wrong or there's something lacking, right? That our kids are maybe these empty vessels that if we don't fill them up with everything, they're not going to be successful. Again, whatever that means. And I think so we go to Mega Learning Center. We're now in Anne Arundel County. And one of our imams, Imam Humam, was giving the khutbah one time about that the Quran, this was after Ramadan, he was saying, the Quran is actually a book that's filled with challenges, right? Even the first word that was uttered to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was Iqra, right? It wasn't a suggestion, it was a challenge. It was a challenge. And do you challenge people who you don't think are competent of rising to that level? I mean, even in that first word, it's an indication that we are capable of all of these things. Everything that we need to do, we are capable of. And I believe that every single child that is born is perfectly formed and created. Regardless of how they present, they are exactly what we need. As a matter of fact, as a society, as a community, that's how we should see every single child. We should see this child and think, you know what? I'm not sure what you're going to do, but whatever it is, we need it. We need you so desperately. I think it would completely change the experience of our kids as they reside and grow up in our communities. Because the truth is, after, decades of homeschooling, there are absolutely families who were with us the whole time. Like, they only homeschooled, they never did anything else. There were a lot of families who came to us because their kids were in a HIFS program, and so they hung out with us for a while, and then they were back to the school system. Or sometimes one child was in, public school, and other kids were homeschooling. I mean, there's a million different ways to do it, right? That's the beauty of, I think, homeschooling, is that you're able to tailor it to your needs, and those needs change, right? Because that's the essence of life, it's change. We're always changing. So I think, in being an unschooler, it recognizes and acknowledges that learning is ever present, right? It's everywhere. Whether we are sitting down with our kids and doing worksheets or not, they're always learning. And there are always opportunities for learning. Always. I was driving over here, talking to my sister on the phone. Her best friend was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer, and they had just gotten a dog. And so now she's not capable of caring for the dog. So my sister's been taking care of the dog, and my sister's daughter has already fallen in love with this dog. And she was saying, like, oh my gosh, Ellie cries so much when she's away from the dog. And I'm immediately thinking, I'm listening to the story, but I'm thinking, oh, here's a perfect opportunity for you to ask her, like, well, what do you do when you're sad? Right? How do you express it? What do you do with those feelings? Like, I'm just constantly thinking about how we take every single life experience and turn it into an opportunity for kids to just be curious about themselves to begin with, right? Like, how are you unique? How are you different? What do you like? What do you do with those feelings? How do you identify your feelings? Do you know what they're called? Just, you know, all of this, every single day, every single moment is an opportunity for learning if we just take the chance, take the moment, and recognize it. So, I mean, I would like to tell you that we, you know, used all of these amazing, expensive, you know, curricula for the kids. No, we didn't. Every single year was something different. It's like, I don't know, we'll do time for learning one year. One year we just did workbooks. For a while we followed like Al-Huda. Like if Al-Huda had books for 3rd or 4th grade, we'd be like, okay, we'll use those books. I mean, it was different every single year. I think the key component was that we were demonstrating, right, that we were curious, that we wanted to learn new things, and that we were supporting it in the kids as well. Like Zakaria, he loved to watch birds. We didn't say to him, oh, look, those birds are awesome. He just naturally realized, I love watching birds. And then he took out a journal and started sketching the birds. And then he started writing down the behaviors that he noticed that were different in the various, you know, birds. And again, I truly believe that kids are already amazing and brilliant. The other thing that I've noticed, so last year at Mecca Learning Center, we had a homeschooling workshop. And you know, there were a lot of parents who came. It was wonderful. Some people who were already homeschooling, some people who were interested. I think the pandemic definitely gave parents whose kids were in public school an opportunity to see what goes on in the classroom, right? Because now all of a sudden you're right next to the child with the teacher on screen. And a lot of people came to me saying, you know, I think I could do that. And I don't, again, my parents are educators. I'm not dismissing educators. It's the system for me that is just no bueno. But at this workshop, I realized that, you know, the struggles that I saw in the sisters when we were homeschooling our kids is still there. And it's really around fear. And there's absolutely healthy fear, right? Like, we should fear Allah. We should always want to lead our lives in a way that's pleasing to Allah. And then there's that unhealthy fear, right? The unhealthy fear that says, oh my gosh, am I enough, right? Do I know enough? Oh my gosh, I don't have my PhD. Can I, like, you know, homeschool my kids? And the truth is, yes, you absolutely can, 100%. Because again, we're not creating human beings, right? We're facilitating the learning process. And in the process, we're making ourselves, right, curious and inquisitive as well. And I think that's the benefit ultimately to the community, right? Because when I think about some of the reasons why I took my Shahada, it was very much around this idea that we should be thinking people, right? That we should ponder and reflect and be learned. And I don't see that all the time in our community. And I feel as though, like, the homeschoolers are the ones who are going to remind people, this is the way we should all be. We should all be this way, right? We should hear a thing and say, oh, that's interesting. Let me check it out. Let me look that up. Is that true? Is it not? Because, I mean, you know, the doctor was saying culture influences things, and that's true, including our deen, right? There are a lot of cultural, you know, influences in the deen that people continue, but I'm not so sure that they're really about the deen. So in the end, this idea of just, you know, wanting to be curious, wanting to be informed, wanting to be learned, just benefits every aspect of who you are as an individual, who you are, like, in a unit, in a family, in a community, the world, right? We're overwhelmed with people who are grossly uninformed these days. And I think, you know, even when we look at our school system, right, the current, what they call traditional schooling, was really mostly developed, post-World War II, the Industrial Revolution, and it was with the intent to create factory workers. Factory workers. Right? Not thinkers, not changers, not innovators, not resistors, factory workers. And Allah has not created any of us to be a factory worker. Right? So, yeah, I think, wallahi, it was the best decision that we ever made for so many reasons. And again, I think it has been wonderful for the kids. The kids did, absolutely, as they started to go into college, they went through this phase of, oh, look at these things that I missed out on. Like, I didn't have a guidance counselor in high school. Yeah, that's true. Like, all of what you're saying is true. There were certainly things that you missed out on. But for me, the benefit that outweighs whatever you could say to me is that I did my best to ensure that you developed the way Allah created you. And that is priceless. The impact that it's had on our family has been priceless. And alhamdulillah, most of them have come back around and they're like, oh my gosh, we're so glad we homeschooled. Yeah, so it's been an amazing journey. I think homeschool moms need a lot of reminders of how amazing they are. I think the dads in general need a lot more exposure to human growth and development, because I feel as though a lot of, not just dads, but brothers in general, don't understand the variety of ways in which Allah has created us, right? Sometimes I feel as though, no offense, brother, but sometimes I feel as though they've spent their whole lives just seeing 3 colors. And so when 3 more colors show up, they're like, what is that? We've never seen those before. And it's so important because, as you mentioned, right, the role that fathers play around kids' confidence is really important, right? So every child in our community should feel important and seen and understood by everybody, including the brothers. So again, homeschooling is something that just, it benefits everybody. It's such a beautiful thing. And if you can do it for a year, if you can do it for 5 years, if you can do it for 20 years, whatever it is, you will never regret it. So, Jazakallah khairan. Any questions? No? No questions? So let me ask you a question. What did you have on your mind when you were coming today? What were you thinking about that you might want to hear? How it works? Okay. You mean like the logistics of what a day looks like? Kind of? Yeah. Oh, yes, sister.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My question is, I have a high schooler that wants to be homeschooled. He's here actually. So I just wanted to know what are the process, what I need to do that, and what are the challenges that I should be expecting as a mom, and what is expected of me from the school system, the PG County school system.
So most counties, interestingly, depending on how old your son is, allow kids to enroll in community college at like 16. Some of them even before 16, but definitely by 16. So you could do high school, you could do community college, depending on where your son is and what he wants to do. Most counties have an assurance of consent form that you have to complete and submit to their homeschooling office, and that's it. I mean, some counties want that form done every single year. So when we were in Montgomery County, you needed to do it every single year. In Anne Arundel County, you only have to do it once. So I kept sending it in, and finally they were like, listen, we don't know why you keep sending this form in. we really don't need it unless there's been a change. And I was like, okay. Yeah, so the counties are a little different. And again, like there are definitely curriculums that you can use for high school, right? Because there are standards of learning. So all states publish their standards of learning. You can look it up. For me personally, I think that, you know, my kids' learning has looked like this. Here's some interesting, you know, work that we want to do. Either you, like for instance, like they didn't even ever experience grades until they went to community college. Because for us, we're working through an issue. Either you get it or you don't. And if you don't get it, we'll continue to work on it. And once you've gotten it, we're moving on to the next thing. The standards of learning are helpful to kind of get a sense of what topics you should be addressing. But even those, right? I have a child who will remain nameless to protect his or her identity, but they didn't start reading till 3rd grade because they showed no interest in wanting to learn. And I'm not going to force my kids. So here I think for me is the difference. When you go into a traditional classroom, you are not the center of that learning. You are there to receive and nothing else. In homeschooling, the child is completely centered, right? It's all about that child. So this particular child didn't show any interest, so I was like, okay, fine, no problem. Like, when you're ready, let me know. And what happened was he realized in some of his, like, you know, online games and stuff that it was difficult, right, to interact with peers and move on because he lacked these skills. So then all of a sudden, he's like, I want to learn how to read. Okay, cool, let's do it. By the way, he just graduated in December, cum laude, right? So again, if fear was present, I would have been, no, you need to learn how to read right now because everybody else's child learned to read 2 years ago. But when fear is removed, you're like, okay, cool, whatevs. So, you know, high school is interesting because you do have that opportunity to think about what you want to do. I will say that the community college experience was different for all of my kids. I think for Zach, he went to Howard Community College because he had already taken some homeschool classes there and he was familiar with the setting and he didn't want to go someplace new. So we were like, okay, fine, no problem. In his mind, he thought he was going to be going to a place like Harvard, where people are sitting around and, you know, dissecting these massive, you know, life issues, doing all these deep, you know, and he's, you know, kids like hungover from the night before, and he's like, what in the world have I stumbled into? So I think what's interesting for me is in the past when I would tell people that I homeschooled, this was the first question I always got. Aren't you worried about your kids' social skills? That was always the first question. And I would always say, if those are the things that kids pick up in public school, yeah, I'm not worried about that at all. As a matter of fact, that's my main reason in doing it, because that's not healthy socialization. It's just not healthy at all. And so, you know, kids, when they go to these other settings, if they haven't been exposed, right, because our kids really hadn't been, that's a time, you know, to kind of check in with them a little bit more and see how they're doing. It was definitely, you know, a weird period for them, but alhamdulillah, it prepared them. You know, they figured out this, I need to sit in a desk. They figured out, like, these are the assignments. They figured out this is what grades look like. You know, they figured out, you know, how to transfer, right? They all did, like, community college, and then they transferred, you know, to UMD or UMBC or somewhere. Adam was the only one who went away to play soccer for a university in Pennsylvania, but yeah, like, I mean, again, they all figure it out, and they also figure out how to find people who will help them figure it out. And that person doesn't necessarily need to be you, right? Because at the end of the day, we want our kids to be independent and able to take care for themselves and be, you know, fulfilling societal contributors. So, so high school is interesting, and there are, you know, programs where they will provide you the entire curriculum. I think the big question is, once you sign up to homeschool, will you be under an umbrella, or will you be going through the county? Because that's, when you go through the county, they'll definitely want to see proof that you did this, you did that. They're going to look at those standards of learning and they'll need something. What did you do for health, right? What did you do for music? What did you do for social studies or history or science? If you're under an umbrella, and does PGMA have an umbrella? Yes, PGMA has an umbrella. Perfect. I love umbrellas because it just, they give you, when you need assistance and guidance and structure, they can help you with that. And when you're at a place where you're like, you know what, I'm good to go, then they also allow you to do that as well, right? So much like homeschooling, right? It's different for everybody every single year, and as your needs change, that they're able to meet those needs, which is a beautiful thing. So, and in terms of what a day looks like, so we had, and I know PGMA has a pod, which is so cool. That's the other thing, right? The pandemic created all these new opportunities for people to get together and share. By the way, the relationships that I formed with other sisters in homeschooling, mashallah, I mean, they're just so, they're some of the most precious relationships that I have in my life. So we always had like a homeschool support group. It started at Al-Huda, and then we moved to Mecca Learning Center. But we would do one day a week where everybody got together for a variety of things. When we were at Al-Huda, we would alternate. It was always the same day, but we would have geography one day, and we'd have, we'd do a field trip the next week, or like we just had a schedule. At Mecca Learning Center, we decided to create a curriculum that was actually using a work of nonfiction as the hub, and then we would build the subjects off of that book. Because I also find that a lot of traditional education doesn't provide opportunities for connection, right? Like you go to class and you sit in your desk and you're learning algebra, but you don't see algebra anywhere else, right? It's just a subject to take and a box to check, right? Versus, oh my gosh, look, there's algebra there in the trees, and there's algebra in relationship, like there's algebra everywhere, right? And so, like one of the books that we did was The Boys in the Boat, which was the 1936 US Olympic rowing team. So we took the kids rowing. We had Miss Strohecker, Margaret Strohecker, who's here in Greenbelt. She does science and physics classes for kids at a church right there off of Greenbelt Road before you get to 295. And she's amazing because she is unflappable in the presence of boys. Like boys can be climbing the walls and she's like, okay guys, let's go, we're gonna work on this today. Like she's amazing. You find those resources. And she's still doing classes, by the way. So she did a course on the physics of rowing. We went to a book signing with the author. We did social studies, we did sports. We went through all of the different Olympic sports with the kids, and that was the year that the Olympics took place. I mean, it was wonderful. So I think, again, the key to doing this successfully is having support. Having a group that you can, connect with once a week, who you can talk to, you can share your joys, your frustrations, your, fears, whatever it is. And honestly, all of my kids, like they have these, first of all, they're so close to each other. Like I love it. It brings me so much joy to see how much my kids love each other. Like really, really, they're so close. And they're so close to their homeschool, like the kids who they homeschooled with as well. Again, these are priceless things. They're just priceless. So when we weren't doing our support group, then other days, it was kind of flexible, right? There was a time when some of the community colleges did a lot of homeschool classes. I don't know if they're still doing those. Like and again, homeschool moms like Alia here, so resourceful. So resourceful. So you don't even have to know everything or do everything. You just have to identify people like Alia, who is researching and knowing everything, and you just get her number and you say, hey, tell me what you guys are doing next week. She's also the mom of 4 boys, so she's a powerhouse. Yeah, so every day, honestly, looks a little different. There were, some sisters who, like every Monday was library day, right? They just go to the library, pick up some books, or, yeah, some of them did, self-defense, swimming. There's so much. And as more and more community centers are increasing offerings, there's so much to do at the community centers. And again, for me, I think for kids, once they get to a certain age, all of this should be very self-led, right? Because one thing I never heard from my kids, like they never got up in the morning and said, oh my God, I don't want to go to school. No one ever said that, right? It was always like, hey, what are we going to do today? And the other thing is our traditional system sends this message, intentionally or unintentionally, that somehow your learning belongs to somebody else. What in the world? And that's why when people get to a certain age, they just stop learning, they stop being curious, because it was never theirs to begin with, right? Why would I continue to carry around this load that, oh my God, it's really heavy and it belongs to somebody else? The truth is it's yours. It's always been yours from the very beginning, right? Until we draw our last breath, we should all be curious. We should be like learning new things and trying new things. And yeah, so that's what I mean. Like homeschooling isn't just for that child, it's for everybody. Everybody who is surrounding that child, everybody who comes into contact with that child. Yeah. All right, other questions? Yes.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum. I have a question for both of them.
Hello.
The brother and sister, how did you manage your schedule with work, since I think you're a doctor and she's a nurse, so how did you manage?
You want to go first?
Okay. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I mean, you have to, so in my field, I can do moonlighting, moonlighting. That means I don't have to work, 9 to 5 at an office, but I can work for the hospital, let's say on weekends. And, for up until 2006, I was doing that, 2006. Then I started my own practice, which is now in its 20th year. But yeah, you have to do something about your schedule. So yeah, you work less. I mean everybody has 24 hours of time in a day. So if you want to spend some time, or you want to do some other things, you have to cut down some certain things. So it's a bargain. You make less money. That's that. I mean, there's nothing, but the benefits are a lot. I mean, like actually, why don't you go ahead and then I'm going to comment on what you said.
Okay. So, yes, I continued to work, but I worked 4/10s, which was very accommodating of my employer. So that day that we all met, like as a homeschool support group, that was my day, and I was preparing for it all week. I was so excited. My husband was home with the kids. My mom helped out because, again, she's got her doctorate in early childhood education. So, it was a team. Probably at the beginning, as time went on, it just, kids start to develop their own independent practices, and so you don't have to, be there all the time. But this is another, paradigm that I reject. This idea that learning only takes place between 9 and 3, in this, again, building, right? Like learning is taking place all the time. So I can work with the kids in the evening. I can work with the kids on the weekends. I can say, hey, what did you learn this morning at 10:15? What were you thinking about Sunday night at 11:30? Right, it's going on all the time. Right? In a similar way to our breathing, right? We're constantly breathing. And unless we stop for a moment and say, oh, hold on. Wow, I controlled that breath. But our being aware of it doesn't change the fact that it's always happening. And learning is the same way. So even for us when we homeschooled, we changed things up a little bit during Ramadan, for sure. But during summer, I'm like, who takes a break from learning? That doesn't make any sense. That's like saying, okay, you know what, every year for summer I'm going to stop breathing for 2.5 months, and then I'll resume breathing in September. So I think once you acknowledge that learning takes place 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, then you know, the idea of how you're working and the hours, and it doesn't become as important, right? It's important if you're following that learning can only take place during these hours. So if you're working during these hours, how could learning take place? Okay.
All right. So let me just comment on what you said in the first part. Everybody had a different reason. So our reason to pull our child from actually from the Islamic school, and this was the very first year of her schooling in kindergarten, was, as the sister said, that it's not the same child that we send to the school. I mean, we saw, me and my wife both would see that we send a happy child, okay, and they come out, totally different. And it's not like that they're not actually doing good at the school, because the teachers were very happy, and she was progressing well. Everything was good, but it's the behavior is not the same. Just by by sending to any school. So I talked to a lot of brothers at that time. I used to live in College Park, and they said that this happens wherever you send your kids to. So that summer, when this year was over, we said, no, let's try doing homeschooling. And that summer we did homeschooling one-on-one, as the sister said. That is real education. She learned so fast reading that by the time she was, I think, in the first grade, she was reading at the third or fourth grade level. So that happens really fast when you do any type of one-on-one learning. And this is the best thing that you can give to your child. Once they're hooked on reading, they read. So I mean, they themselves are on that path of learning. And then obviously you have to guide them, as the sister was saying. The other benefit that we got from that is we were able to send our kids for the HIFs, because as you know, the HIFs take 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and sometimes 6 years. All of that, so you have that time. They can do all of these things, including their secular education, which is, I can tell you, it's not a lot. And we didn't really do a good job, and we feared that what's going to happen to them when they go to college. And they, alhamdulillah, they all went to college. They successfully completed their graduations, except the little one. She's in community college right now. But that's the benefit that you get. So and the socialization issue, the big S, is always being asked, but it's not really. It's a myth. I mean, it's better that they socialize with few kids, and they get good input from them. By the way, these homeschooler, they actually relate better with all the other age groups, whether they are their older peers or uncles, aunts. And this is one benefit that you don't get from from the school goers. So all of these things, just want to piggyback on sisters, what she said. So go ahead. But yeah.
We have another question over here. Okay, Assalamu alaikum. So I actually had the same question that the brother had about, if you work full time somewhere else, how to schedule it. But I do have a follow-up question. For this program, for the PGMA's Homeschool Pod, I just have questions about the logistics of what we'll be doing on Tuesday and Thursday, and then how to fit in whatever curriculum choices we make for our children. So I don't know if somebody else. Oh, okay.
Another point that the good doctor brought up that I wanted to touch on was this idea of socialization, right? Like, kids who homeschool, they spend time with people who are younger, people who are their age, people who are older all the time, as do most people as they go through their lives, unless you're in school. When you're in school, they're going to put you in a classroom with people who are all the exact same age, And they'll make sure of that because they're checking birth certificates. And what I've realized is that that experience creates this idea of competition that is very unhealthy, and it's very difficult to get rid of, right? Because it's done around this deficit model. Like, you know, there's only a certain number of A's and B's, you better get one before somebody else takes it from you. So now your classmates who should be, you know, your like partners and collaborators and, you know, world changers are now seen as your competition. And once that is like put in, like once that seed is planted, it's hard to get rid of it. I mean, I see it in adults all the time, right? Everything's a competition. And as soon as I see it, I'm like, have at it, it's all yours. What else? I'm not playing this game. I mean, it's sad. It's a sad use of energy, and I understand. And so that's why when people choose to start homeschooling, I always say two things. Number one, you should give it 2 years, because 1 year is not enough to really figure out whether it will work or not. And number two, you should realize that the challenge will be you. Right? Because you really need to change your mindset, right? Your kids are gonna love it. Who wouldn't love it? So just keeping that in mind, I think is helpful as you proceed. Because you're gonna need a lot of support. You're gonna need reminders that everything's gonna be okay. We actually started a homeschool support group. So we meet monthly. At my house, and you know, everybody's homeschooling except for me. Although you never stop homeschooling, right? Like literally, you always have that spirit. But I think it's very comforting, right, for moms to say, well, this happened or that happened. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever, you're good, don't worry about it, right? Don't worry about anything, right? Everything is fine, everything is fine. These are all opportunities, right? If your kid says something or does something, not a problem. Honestly, I think what I worry about more is how we function as a community, because that is what is so uniquely beautiful about Islam, and that's the thing that is often missing, right? That we should be so supportive. And we've tried this in the past, like reaching out and saying, hey, tell us where your expertise is. We'd love for you to come and talk to the kids about it. And we often get like crickets. Where I think, like when we really have a community that values the learning process for everybody, then everybody should be saying, how can I help? Hey, listen, you know what, I know how to pickle beets. Can I do like a workshop with the kids on how to pickle beets? Or, so that I think is my next goal. That is a sign, I think, of a healthy community when people literally see every single child they encounter and think, that's our child. I mean, thank you for taking care of our child, but that's our child, right? So we need to make sure that our child is doing well, that our child has what they need. Look at that delicious little one. Thank you for taking care of our child. Okay, other questions? Yes, sir.
How do you balance the student-led passion, particularly when they're older, and then also feeling the need to finish the subject or finish the curriculum? Like, yes, I want you to follow your passions, but also we need to do algebra, you know. And to add on to that, how do you follow the student-led passions when your kid isn't necessarily passionate about anything, you know, or you know, it's like, I would just want to sit on the computer and play, you know. How do you know, the teenage years of just, I don't really want to do anything. How do you deal with it?
So, great question. And interestingly, when we first started homeschooling, phone technology was not like it is today, right? And like everything, these are tools, and my husband and I always kind of struggled with the decision of, like, you know, we want our children to have tools for success, so this is a tool that they need to, at some point, learn and acquire and understand, but how do you do that? And it looked different, honestly, for every child, because every child is different. I think you know, so my husband loves documentaries, and when we first started homeschooling, it was Netflix when they had the discs. And literally, we were the 3-disc family, and they were done in a couple of days, and we were getting 3 new discs. I mean, we were constantly like getting Netflix deliveries to the mailbox. I think, and he eventually exhausted all of them, he and the kids. I remember one time we were going up to Baltimore to the aquarium, and we're driving, and Aisha sees the sign for Johns Hopkins, and she's like, oh, Johns Hopkins, he's a physician, right? Like, she's going through all this stuff, and I was like, oh, honey, how do you know that? She's like, oh, it's one of those boring documentaries Abba watches all the time. But even in the boring documentary, right, that's what I'm saying, kids are picking up on things. Once we got cable, that drove me crazy. I really didn't want cable. But with anything, right, the phone, the computer, there's the issue of what's the right amount of time. But there's also an opportunity for, okay, when you're on the computer for 5 hours, let's do a little research study, right? Like, tell me how you feel before you start. Tell me how you feel halfway through. Tell me how you feel at the end. Tell me how you feel after you don't have it for 2 days. You know, kind of explore those feelings, and what does this say to you, right? Is this the way that you want to feel? And even exploring the idea of joy, right? Kids might not necessarily associate it with specific subjects, but there's clearly things that make them more excited and joyful than others, right? And so helping them to figure out what that is, because, and I don't know if you heard this part before, I think traditionally subjects have been taught as just that, subjects. Like for me, you know, when I was younger, I thought I was going to be a Broadway singer and dancer, right? So I didn't need math, I didn't need science, I didn't need any of these things. And honestly, when I think about the math classes I took, it was just like, oh, here's geometry, and you know, here's algebra. But as I got older and started to realize that, well, math is everywhere, right? Science is everywhere. So kids might not necessarily like the subject title, but within that subject, there's probably something that they like, and they just don't realize it. I think also, depending on the age of the kid, like when I was younger, no one ever gave us a test to see like what career path we might be interested in, right? Like I often come across people my age, a little bit younger, a little bit older, where I think, ooh, you have like a scientist mind, or you have an engineer mind, but you've actually been doing this other work for the past, 30, 35 years because no one came and said, hey, take this test to see like how your brain works and what kinds of things you enjoy. And it's different now. I mean, there are online tests that you can take, right, that will demonstrate, oh, well, you actually like language and you like drawing and, but I think all of these are opportunities for kids to be aware of how they experience a thing and how they feel about a thing, right? Because the answer is in there, and helping them to tap into that and access it and be curious. Be curious about themselves. It's amazing how people can go through life and never stop to think about how they feel about a thing, right? Feelings they're kind of like the feelings that are positive and we should always have, and the negative ones that we should like stomp out or kick under the rug. But the last time I checked, Allah created us with a full range of emotions, right? All of them. So we should explore those, and we should help our kids be curious, right? Like the doctor said, he realized his daughter was happy and joyful, and then she wasn't. What was that? What caused that change? So, yes.
Jazakallah khair. Sister Moira, can we take one question from the brother's side, inshallah? And then we come back to the sisters.
Assalamu alaikum. I have this one question. I'm not yet a parent, inshallah, but how can I prepare myself for providing homeschooling in the future, especially in the case that some of us might not be homeschooled ourselves?
Is that for me?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I actually love that question Because last year at our workshop at Mecca Learning Center, we actually had a couple where the husband was not homeschooled, but he was all in for homeschooling. Like, he was so excited about it, and his wife was like, "Oh, I don't know, I'm not sure." Again, I think that, back to the breathing example, right? Our children are always watching us. They are always watching us. They're always learning from us, right? And at a certain age, they'll start to model us, right? Like, boys will model their dads, girls will model their moms. So whether you catch them looking at you or not, they are always watching you. And so, you know, making sure that you are a curious person, right? That you support learning, that you like trying new things. That kind of like sets the foundation. So when homeschooling comes along, it's a very natural thing. It's like, yeah, I've already been doing this. I've already been doing this for, you know, a year, 2 years, 10 years, 20 years. Piece of cake. Simple pivot. Just add a few more people into the mix. Yeah. That would be my answer.
What I would add is, you know, just start teaching. You know, maybe you can help at a Sunday school or evening school, or, you know, the pod that they have, and, you know, see where you can help, and that would prepare you for, you know, for the next step. Yeah.
We ready for another question on this side?
This question goes to both the brother and sister, but thank you so much. We've been discussing pretty much the idea of unschooling students, but the parents themselves also have grown up and become accustomed to this traditional mindset. Are there resources that have helped either you or the brother in unlearning for the parents to kind of use, because it is a process for the parents as well, as much so as for the students themselves. So are there any resources that have helped you in, I guess, transitioning into this new stage?
So, I mean, back in some 20, 30 years ago, there were very few resources. I mean, if you know, let me go back to the list of things that we didn't have that many books, or, you know, even online resources. So there was this book, the Homeschool source book, that, you know, and then the Well-Trained Mind, we use that, and, you know, Home Learning, Year by Year, that from Rebecca Rupp. And these are the type of books that those were available. Well, we had our own experience. Obviously, you know, I went to a public school. So, I mean, the things that everybody should learn, reading, writing, I mean, your language arts, math, I mean, these are basic things. I believe you can't do without them, and you would need them, you know, at any stage. How well we did it, I would say we didn't do a very good job. But they still survived. The kids did survive college, and that's the proof that whatever we did, and we didn't do a good job. You know, I have to say it, you know, plainly. But whatever the basics they got in terms of learning, they were able to learn all of that. Okay, I mean, I have obviously science background. And I don't think that I was able to teach as much science as I knew, even of that level. And they learned it in community college. So, I mean, they obviously they had a little difficulty initially, but that's okay. You know, I mean, we went through all kinds of difficulties. You know, obviously I studied in Pakistan. I came over here, I had to take the exam. I had to, you know, this whole new system. I didn't know much spoken English back then. So all of that I have to learn. And I guess everybody had to go through a learning curve. You know, So I mean, you don't spoon feed everything. I can tell you. I mean, this is the kids have to go through some difficulty. But whatever you can do, I guess that helps.
So as I mentioned, it's there. I think just acknowledging that it's there and it's going to take a while. There are several sisters one who homeschooled with us, the other who's a newer homeschooler, and both of them confided in me. They said, listen, when we first heard about your unschooling thing, we thought you were crazy. And they're like, but now we see it. And sometimes the seeing is because you're beyond that point of fear. And to be perfectly honest, when fear shows up, it's not about the child. It's not about the child. You know what I mean? It's triggering something in us, right? And not only is it triggering, I would suggest that that idea is not even ours organically, right? It's an idea that has been planted in our heads. We have this, when we lived in Tacoma Park, my husband does landscaping, and we had the most gorgeous yard, and you know, he was able to get the beds to a point where they were just beautiful, established. Where we are now in Severn, oh my gosh, we have this vine that is just unbelievable, and it has adapted so much that it's a massive vine that covers the entire yard, and it has thorns on it. Like, this wants to survive. So every year, it's ripping it up, and it comes back. Every year. And so it means every year we're a little more aware of, like, oh, maybe we need to move up our ripping up a little bit earlier, you know? So depending on where that seed is, right? Sometimes it's, oh, I've gotten a well-established bed, there's just an occasional weed I need to pull up, or it's still aggressive. But yeah, there's a lot of pressure put on moms, right? And it's constantly reinforced. When somebody does something, right, here come the media, right? Where was the mother? Where was the mother when all this happened, right? They don't say, where was the dad? Like, oh my gosh. So there's a lot of pressure. And alhamdulillah, we have such a unique and beautiful role that I imagine none of us would give up. Because when you understand the other side, you're like, oh no, we're perfectly content right here where we are. But it's there, right? So it's, yeah. So just, again, being aware that it's there, and also being aware that we will be triggered sometimes, right? And that's why it's so helpful to just follow the kids, right? If they're fine, everything is, like for instance, when my kids went to community college, several of them would fail a class. And I'm like, yeah, no problem, take it again. Take it again, right? Like, who decided, right? I've worked side by side with colleagues who like are the 4.0 students who, honest to goodness, people really, you don't want to work alongside these people, right? So again, this idea that the only value, right, the only brilliant, intelligent people are people who are able to do this, I don't think so. That's just not true. It's not true. It's another one of those stories that we've been fed. And the truth is, I'm sure, like with the doctor, nobody asked him, right, what did you get in organic chemistry, right? Because nobody cares, right?
I was good at it. I used to teach.
Alhamdulillah, I'm not surprised. But, right, nobody asked me, right? I mean, I'm a licensed nurse. Nobody said, hey, what'd you get in pathophysiology? Nobody asks that, right? At the end of the day, there's something to be done, and just accomplish it, no matter how long it takes you. It just doesn't matter. These are other people's ideas and stories, and we should be writing our own. That's the way Allah created us, right? If Allah wanted all of us to be exactly the same, He wouldn't have needed our assistance in doing that, right? So there's a reason why we're all unique and different, and we should celebrate that. We should elevate that, right? We should be present to it all the time, instead of thinking, this is the right way to do things. No. Other questions? Yes, Alia.
Assalamu alaikum. I think when she asked the question, that I automatically thought about, like, it is about us. And she was talking about, like what you're saying about the triggers also.
Okay, other questions? Yes, please.
Wait, there were no questions on the brother side too, right? Oh, were there other questions on the brother side? No, okay. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. And you all may have heard about the pod. This is our first year starting with the PGMA Homeschool Pod. And we also have an umbrella, so we can, do your reviews twice a year. And also we offer support. Like she was talking about, support is very important because you don't want to be burned out as a parent, right? Because like she explained, the whole energy, right? The child feeds off of your energy. So we want to support you while you are homeschooling, and we want to help you fill in those gaps, wherever that might be in math or English or whatever that might be. We want to help you so that we can help each other, right? So we are all, everyone that is, all the facilitators that are on the pod are also homeschool parents themselves, and they also have a lot of experience, so you can easily come and talk to any one of us, and we can, answer those questions for you, help you, maybe help you find some more resources so that you can fill in those gaps. We are starting on September 2nd, inshallah, so registration is open, and it is $200 for the year. That covers up to 4 children. We wanted to make sure that families with multiple children are able to join, and that the cost is not prohibitive. We're doing. So we're gonna actually by year thing, but we're gonna have different subjects by semester, right? We agreed on that. We talked about it. So Sister Shamawi right here, who will be teaching in the pod. She's one of the facilitators also. Mashallah, she's well-rounded. She's an educator herself, right? We don't say was an educator. She's an educator herself, and she's also a homeschooling mom. And along with Sister Eileen, who is a Montessori teacher. He has several years of experience as a Montessori teacher. And we have 2 other brothers. I don't know if they want to be mentioned, but they're also very knowledgeable and very well-rounded, and they will also be facilitating in the pod. And we welcome parent volunteers, of course. We want parents to volunteer for field trips. We want them to be involved as much as they can. And we're running on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., inshallah. Any questions? No? No questions? No, they're in person. So they're here, and yes. Okay.
So you were asking about a specific book. So there is a book of unschooling. It says Unschool Yourself First. You can just find it online. It's on Audible and things like that. And then another book that I really enjoyed, and I read this when my children were very young was The Whole Mind Child, and it just talks about your child's different needs and how to deal with them. I don't know which mom it was that said all their child wants to do is play video games. Okay, so when I was an educator, I had the same issue. The mother was a lawyer, the father was a physician, and all he wanted to do was play video games. I told them to go with that. He was highly intelligent, and I didn't feel that he needed to go the model that they wanted. His name was Amen, and Harvard actually has a program that is free for youth where it teaches them how to create their own video games. So that is something that you can do. And Amen actually wound up just taking his GED and going to university. He was only in middle school, but he was very intelligent and he was bored, and I noticed it. And so I talked to his parents about it because they were fighting with him to just go this route. And I was like, if he can skip all of these levels, why force him to go through middle school and high school? So if that is your child, I would look at MIT has a program, and so does Harvard, and they can just stay at home and do all of those courses at home.
Okay, is that everything? Want to have questions? Can I answer your questions? No? No? Yes? This microphone's also dead. Can you hear me? Oh, okay. Her questions is, and okay, so we're group, so for the pod and the umbrella, and then in that group, of course, we want you. Feel free. Answers your question. Okay, alhamdulillah. Yeah, do you guys want to talk afterwards, or anybody wants to talk or has questions afterward? Meet me outside of the table that says registration, beautiful table. Inshallah, has a question. So, people might only need the umbrella supervision. And with the state or the county, you're you know, sure. So homeschool. Your have right, and then you're compliant, then they make recommendations. Sometimes those recommendations, if you must put your child in school, right? You know, the no child thing. So that's what that is. If you are, now, you don't, and you, right? And you would just bring that, the standard that your child's needs are being met. So if, let's say you're lacking in like math, right? We'll provide the support, we'll help you and give you the tools to say you can do to get yourself, you know, where you need to be, right? And you can come back and represent it to us and we can get you compliant. Because the idea here is not to make you non-compliant, right? We're not trying to penalize you for not maybe doing enough. Everyone gets to where their child is learning on level or above level, right? No, you just do, and on the register, you will just, right? If you, and you haven't filled out your form with the county, we can do that for you. So we'll, for behalf, joining our umbrella. So that's also another option. So for people who don't have an account, because I know PGCPS has a portal where you can go in and just, well, maybe have never done it, right? Or maybe they're coming from public school and they've never done homeschooling your child. And if you know, not for every, so if you're last year, let's, because before, if you're, this is your first year, like your child's first year, you have to print that, sign, and notify it to them. But if you have done it before, it's just looking and you don't have to send it again. You don't have to Right. Right. Yeah. So do you have the portal? Okay. Right. So just, right. It's just like, no, if you do it online, you don't have to do it for online, and you're, let's say, for example, you're joining in PGMA homeschoolers, right? Online, and you would select, you know, your entity, whatever it says, supervising entity, so you would select PGMA homeschoolers. So for people who maybe don't have the portal account, right, and they don't know how to get, they don't, like, they're just fresh into homeschooling, they've never done it before, so we want to facilitate that for them to where I'll get the form for them. All they have to do is fill it out, sign it, and then I turn it back over to the county and say, hey, we have a new homeschooler, this is their name, and they're joining our umbrella. Okay? That's it? Okay, so let's go.
All right, Jazakumullah khair everyone for joining us. Hopefully this workshop was important for everyone on your homeschooling journey. Inshallah, if we can ask Dr. Abdul Munim to inshallah close us out with a dua. Jazakumullah khair.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار اللهم ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب اللهم ربنا إننا آمنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وقنا عذاب النار اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وآله وأصحابه أجمعين برحمتك يا رب